of Lost Girl has been very much a mishmash. I feel like this season the writers really wanted to do a very linear, mysterious season, and I applaud that. Despite all my criticisms that I have for the show, and I will get into during this video, I just want to start off by saying that I am for the writers of Lost Girl taking a different formula than what they're used to. I was with the show the first 2 episodes of the season simply because I thought that they were doing a great job doing something different and changing the momentum of Lost Girl in what I thought would be a really positive way. But I feel like what happened after that just turned into a train wreck. I mean, as soon as Bo came back, I felt like we were watching Lost Girl with the same sort of like character beats, but with no plot. Because my whole thing is like the Wanderer stuff, it was all anticlimactic. Everything this season has been anticlimactic except the death of Hale. Hale's death, which is highly problematic, mind you, is the only really hard-hitting bit the season has had. I would argue that not even Kenzi's death is that emotional. For me, this is all my criticisms, and I know people disagree with me, and as always, I always recommend Jason the Doll as a great kind of like alternative to my opinions, because I think they have really great opinions about the show, and while they are critical, they are more favorable towards this season, whereas I have not been. So they're great, check them out. But the finale of Lost Girl to me was a mess, because it's very clear that even the characters don't care about the apocalypse. It's such a non-issue because while all this is going on, no one's like, let's be prepared for this. It's like, let's go save Lauren. Now, mind you, as someone who is team Lauren, I'm for that. I think, yeah, go after the doctor, go find her. But I'm also thinking to myself, like, literally you have this, as it says under the doll, this papaya horse coming to get you, and at the same time you have no concern for what's about to happen. It has nothing to do with that. And for me, that was the thing that brought the entire episode down. Because if you guys aren't concerned about this, I most certainly am not. Because I haven't cared about this whole situation this whole season. So for me, it was just kind of like blah 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 blah, whatevs. With Rainer, he is the Riley of Rileys. I mean, if I would compare this season to any season at all, it's season 4 of Buffy. Because season 4 of Buffy is, quite frankly, after 7, one of the worst seasons of Buffy in my opinion. And I feel like this season is one of the worst seasons that Lost Girl's had because it never really goes anywhere. I feel like the same thing that happened with The Dawning, but thankfully that happened in the middle, so we had stuff at the end to deal with. But I feel like this season a lot of stuff was going on, but nothing was really happening. The plot was moving, but at the same time it happened so in just short spurts. And then when we finally get to the Wanderer bit and meet Rainer, he's nothing like we expected. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Like, it's fine to play with expectations, but when you were talking about mythology having to do with Odin and Norse mythology and all these really interesting things in its own right, and you give us this Nickelback looking dude who's a woobie, no one cares. Like, we already have, like, first of all, no one, like, besides the Daibo shippers, no one's trying to see Bo with a dude anyway. Like, I was just like, look, son, like, no one wants to see this, especially some random dude who, you know, looks like a knockoff Dyson, and we don't know him, we don't care about him. We spent the entire season thinking he was a bad guy. Now it's like, oh, he was secretly Bo's lover. And then to have that happen, and then have Bo been a jerk to everyone this entire season to get back to this dude, disappointment. And then with Lauren getting taken captive, my problem with like Lauren and the whole Massimo thing is just because it's like, it's just a deterrent. Lauren didn't have to be taken over. They didn't even show her getting taken. And I think one of the things, I don't know what the budget has been for this season of Lost Girl, but the fight scenes have been trash. Like, they have, like, Bo, like, in the whole confrontation with her and all the crows, she's just like dodging and ducking. Like, where's she getting a fight? Like, I've been rewatching season 1 of Lost Girl, and Bo was just so good that season. Like, she had her fights, she made good decisions. That's the one thing I have to say about early season of Lost Girl. Like, season 1 of Lost Girl is still the best season because in that season, Bo was making educated, smart decisions. And for some reason, after those last 2 seasons, they decided to make her just, you know, spunky agency up the wahoo. And to me, it brings the whole series down. Lauren getting captured so she can just be Massimo's pawn was aggravating. And Massimo is just like, he's just there going, the actor was like chewing the scenery like it was a fucking steak dinner. Like, there was no sense of urgency because the actor was so comedic. I was never in fear for Lauren's life. Like, I don't think they're gonna kill off Lauren. I mean, Lauren's not Hale, who's expendable. So to me, I'm just like, this is just so that you can focus on a character that we should have been focusing on more this season. It was dull to me, and then when Bo comes and saves Lauren, he gives a speech about love. Like, this is my thing with Bo and her fighting scenes. Why is it that everyone's like, Bo is so powerful, Bo is so capable, and then she gets beaten in like 2 seconds? They always do this. They always are like, she's so powerful, and then she gets her ass kicked. Unless she's with someone who is like totally, you know, beneath her, then it's like, oh, headbutt, and then all of a sudden it's done. But in other times where she's like I remember a time she's like, oh, I can hold on, like with when she gets possessed by the Revenant, she's like, I can do this. 2 seconds, she's possessed. And then Dyson has to calm her down. And I'm just like, but where's the struggle? It literally, you were in it, and then you were like, nah, and now you're good. What? Kenzi's death was kind of the big thing of the finale. And for me, with Kenzi and her death it was comical. It was comical because she's walking to the portal slow-mo with just walking over these dead bodies and no one's attacking her. None of the Revenants are coming after her. Like, she just gets to walk all the way down the runway and just steps into it. Like, there's not one moment where anyone tries to attack her where it's like, she doesn't even run to it. She's just slow-mo walking. I mean, she looks beautiful. Kenzi is beautiful. Her acting is great. But she's just slow-mo walking to the portal of death and nothing's attacking her. Like, literally, stuff's coming out of this portal and she's just taking her time. Like, you just said that you had to hurry and you ain't even running. Like, the music, everything, it was just so anticlimactic. And the fact that Bo wasn't even there for most of it. And, you know, that scene is so parallel to, like, Buffy and Dawn and Zeta and Gabrielle. And let me tell you why those scenes work and this one doesn't. Because with Dawn and Buffy, this was a whole issue the entire season. Dawn and Buffy consistently interact with each other. And Dawn was important to Buffy even when Buffy realized that she wasn't even really her sister. And she still chose to die for her sister. And she's the lead protagonist making that sacrifice, where Bo isn't sacrificing a goddamn thing. And then with Gabrielle and Zeta are always together. They are always interacting. They are always part. Like, their entire arc in that season was them breaking apart, coming together, and seeing that and having their relationship finally be challenged in a really strong way. Whereas even though there were challenges to the relationship between Bo and Kenzi, they're given one episode where they go through it, they wrap it up, and it's done. I mean, another episode where Bo's saying goodbye to people, she completely against Kenzi, and no one says anything about it. Kenzi is jumping to go save her life for this person, and Bo doesn't do shit for her. What, at the funeral when Hale was dead, she didn't do shit for Kenzi the entire time. So I don't feel bad for Bo. I feel like Bo should just be crying because she should realize what a shit friend she's been to Kenzi this whole time. So I didn't care about her feelings because all I'm thinking is that this entire season, you have not done anything to help out Kenzi. And all she has done from the very beginning of this show is be about Bo. All the time. Every day, she's about Bo. So this was bullshit. Tamsin has been great this season, except for the weirdness in the beginning where she was kind of like awkward teen years that I didn't care for. But as a kid and then after she comes back after a while, she was great. I think her scene where like she takes Kenzi with her wings, great. Tamsin has been on point. She's been elevated to one of my faves, even though I was never a really big, huge Valcubus person before. But now she in it. I love her. She was good. I enjoyed her scenes. I feel like she's one of the more pragmatic characters. But they're never given anything really to do except in like short bursts. So that upsets me. So overall this season, like with the Massimo Ebony thing, that was a waste of time. No one needed that. Like, I don't care. I don't care. And Lauren getting saved, of course. It was just to have a good Docubus kiss. Which you could have just given us this without all this extra drama and have the apocalypse actually be important. But, you know. Yeah. So that's specifically the finale, because the finale to me was just boring. Nothing was really going on. The stakes were minimal, and even with Kenzi's death, right? there's this sense that she's gonna come back. That, like, she's like, Bo's gonna find me. No. When Buffy died, we did not think she was coming back. Partly because we didn't know the show was gonna be renewed. So that was finite. Okay? Even with Gabrielle dying in that season, of course we had the idea that she'd be coming back. But it wasn't like, if I die, she's just gonna come get me. So it's fine. Don't worry about it. No. Gabrielle killed herself and her daughter and threw them into a fire abyss to save her best friend. It just happened suddenly. There were no questions about it, and it was done. But we had that little like, it's gonna be okay. No, that's so anticlimactic. Then why do I care? And then I think the worst part of the whole thing that ruined it was just like the voiceover with Bo. I hated it because it ruined a very good, quiet scene. She should not have talked until she actually was by the headstone, and then talked about it. Because who cares about Rainer? Like, who cares about that? Just be like, I'm gonna come get you, blah blah, they should be afraid of me, dramatic, pause, whatever. But all that voiceover stuff, I didn't care for it at all. I know some people thought it was beautiful, I did not. I thought it would I hate voiceover in those kind of moments. It takes away from the episode, takes away from the atmosphere, because it was beautifully shot. It was beautifully shot. Just let it happen. The voiceover was unnecessary. Just have it be a quiet scene, you go there, and it's done. The music in the background was already great. Like, she didn't need to talk. I was done with it. So season 5 is been renewed. I'm still gonna watch the show, but I'm nowhere near excited for the next season as I was for season 4 after the season 3 finale. I feel like while I have respect for the writers and what they try to do, I feel like this season was just a very big hodgepodge of things I wasn't interested in. I mean, they leave stuff open. They don't really solve it. There's so many loose plot strings that have not been done, and they're like, oh, for next season, but you barely touched on them when they were in the episode that you put them into. Like, the Udamens were horrible villains. They were useless, okay? Like, they carried no gravitas to them. Like, it was a waste. You bring in all these guest people who are there to be what? To just die? It was just a mess. But then overall, my issues with this season, I have a few. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I have 5 things. The first one is the treatment of Ebony. Now, I know some people don't have a problem with what happened with Ebony, with Lauren and the sex stuff. Here's my problem with what happened. Ebony is treated in a very gendered way in the show. Everything that is done against her and to undermine her is done so with a lot of emphasis placed on her gender weaknesses. You would never have seen them do this with Lachlan, with the first Ash. None of this shit. Never with the female leaders are they ever like, oh, let's have Dyson go in and have him do this with him, and then we'll do that. That wouldn't even be a thought. But Ebony is undermined because of what? The fact that she's a mother. Her sexuality is used against her. And this is not the first time. This happened before with Bo. This happened before with the thing with Vex. Her sexuality is always used as a weapon. She's always a bitch. She's always treated in a very hyper-gendered way. People were talking about, oh, how she's horrible. Ebony may be a villain, and I'm not saying she's a good person, but who has she ever killed worth a damn in this show? When has she ever been seen as a serious threat to anyone who was not human? Most people she kills are human. Like, she never has ever come on the stage and been like, yeah. No, she has underlings who do stuff for her. Vex is more powerful than the Morrigan. They have never made the Morrigan a very solid threat. So all the emphasis being placed on her, we have to stop her. I'm like, even with Lauren, I'm like, Lauren, you were imprisoned by the light. But Ebony is your big thing? Like, I know she wants to kill Bo, but has she ever been successful in this? No. Has she ever done anything worth a damn that was useful to anyone who's actually fake? No. Ebony is not a good villain. And she's so weak and insignificant because they always beat her and show off her insignificance. And she's a woman in this position, so it becomes even worse when you are always having her half naked, or everything about her to do with her sexuality, or her being a bitch, or now her maternity with Massimo. Like, it's all these very gendered ways of putting her down, and that bothers me. If they just treat her like a regular villain, just have her ass get kicked, that would be fine. But no, she has to be seduced and sexualized in this really gross way. And this is like, what? In this one season, the 2 of the lesbian sex scenes that we have, both of them had deceit in them? Really? Really? That's okay. That's Ebony. Hale's death I've spoken about before, but that to me is a huge disappointment. This show is filmed in Toronto, and it is the most diverse city in the world. That's a fact. And if not the, but one of them. I'm pretty sure it is the most diverse. And yet you have one non-white character who is treated like nothing compared to the rest of your cast, and you kill him off for the sake of your white characters. Complete disappointment. And it's so hard because, like, I don't want to be like, oh, I can't watch the show anymore because there's no black people. It's because, like, the thing about it, too, like, tokenization is bad. Not having any people of color at all is bad. But yet, somehow, I can watch a show with no POC and swallow that better than a show that has a person of color character and then treats them like garbage. Because to me, I feel like they might as well just not be there. Like, I don't even feel comfortable with there being people of color on Lost Girl at this point because they haven't done anything good with any people of color characters that they've had. When they have Asian characters, they treat them in very orientalized ways. And I'm using that term because it is in reference to the racialization, not to call Asian people but they do that. They have these horrible Africa references that they have. They've just never been respected for other cultures and what they do. So I don't even know if I want to see any other POC on Lost Girl because they have not proven to me that they can be respectful of their POC characters. They've never really been given real prominence, real weight when they are in guest spots. So, you know, even with George Takei, you had him, he's only there for like 10 minutes, but he is George Takei, so I'm like, alright, that makes sense. But then you have Mira Kitchener's character who gets to come in for like this 2-part role, which is mostly garbage. It's like, you couldn't have got a black Canadian actress to do this role, like, at all, or just a non-white. Like, you could have got an Asian actress to play that role, anybody else who wasn't white. You know, even with Rainer, could he, like, even though he has to be, like, even though he gets sacrificed in the end, could he have just not been a white dude? Like, you have this person who's fighting for equality and stuff like that. Like, that would have been great to have a non-white character for that. That would have made that whole metaphor even better. But no, default, white people. There's stuff I wrote about here about the friendship between the characters. And I feel like the only real friendship improvement that has really been there has been between Dyson and Lauren, which has been great. I like that they're not fighting that as much anymore. They're just getting along. That was really strong. Kenzi and Tamsin was great. But Bo and Kenzi has become disappointing to me slowly. Like, not to compare two shows, because Teen Wolf isn't perfect itself. But in watching the relationship between Derek, not Derek, oh god, between, you know, Scott and Styles and Allison and Lydia and that unit, and seeing how strongly they care for each other and are unified, to see how Kenzi gets treated by Bo is just so hard. Because their relationship is one of the reasons why I love Lost Girl. And I feel like even though we didn't have a lot of Bo and Kenzi last season, they were still more of a solid thing than I see them in this season. And I know that Emily Anderson said that she wanted them to be separate so they could come apart. I feel like they never really came apart. I felt like it was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to forgive her because she's my best friend, which is great. But at the same time, when is Bo going to acknowledge that she's been wrong? That's what I want to see. Bo's spunkiness. This has been a problem for a while. And Thanks for the Fantasy coined the term spunky agency, which is a great term, and I feel is often used in these protagonists. It's like, why is it so hard for protagonists, and this isn't just a Bo problem, this is a genre problem, to actually use their brains, to actually formulate a plan before they do things. Like, it's always just like, I'm just gonna go do this because I have to go do this because I'm the chosen one, I'm the this. Like, how about you sit down and you come up with a reasonable plan before you go act? It's like, why do these protagonists have to be so anti-intellectual? Like, why can't you just think things through? It's like, no, I gotta do this. I have no facts. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I have to do it because I feel like I have to do it because that's what my gut tells me. Your gut is not fact. Your gut is sometimes indigestion. Your gut is not, it's nothing. Your instincts are not always right, Bo. So when you accidentally unleash an evil papaya horse upon people, don't be surprised because when people are telling you not to open the damn thing and you're like, no, I'm going to open it anyway because I'm Bo and I put myself in other people's business even if they don't want me to, and now I have an evil being unleashed upon me. Thanks for that, Bo. And then finally, the topic of expectations versus reality. And I feel like this has been a big thing this season because so much of the disappointment has been about It's been about us expecting something from Lost Girl, and then when we get it, it's actually not at all what we thought it should be. And here's the thing, there's a difference between not liking something because it's not what you wanted, and not liking something because what it wasn't good. I'm not upset that things didn't happen the way I wanted them, because I'm not the writer, and honestly, I like it when a show challenges what I think it should be and actually does something more interesting. I think for all its flaws, that happens with a lot of other shows. I don't need something to be exactly the way I want it. Like, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Does it happen exactly the way I wanted? No, because if it would, Zatara would have been canon. But I still love it. I don't need it to be what I want it to be. I just want it to be good. And I feel like what we were expecting, what people were theorizing, ended up being so much better than what we actually got. And I feel like I'm not trying to. The writers, I'm sure, work hard, and I'm sure they were doing the best they could. And I'm trying to. And the thing about it too, I'm one voice. I'm one person who doesn't like it. I'm sure there were plenty of people who enjoyed this season overall, but I feel like it's one thing to play with people's expectations, but it's one thing to have everything centered around your protagonist being right. Like, no, Bo was right about pretty much everything this season, and that was frustrating because she needed to be wrong. We needed to have more things happening. Like, we needed to have Rainer be dark. We needed to have Bo have been under some kind of compulsion and not just doing things that were irrational, that were illogical, that were dangerous just for the hell of it. So what I'm gonna need next season is not to be what I want it to be. I just want things to feel unified. I just want to not expect something epic because you made me think that I should, and then get a really horrible battle scene where you have 3 people fighting supposedly like a million army of revenants. I mean, yes, Kenzi was supposed to put down upon them, but we didn't even get to see that. There's so many great things, like we never got to see Kenzi doing her training. Like, you just keep referencing these things that we never got to see, and then be like, oh, that should be cool. This season has just been really hard for me to get through, which sucks because I thought it was going so well. But I have to just say this one thing, like, Lost Girl is a show that talks about being sex positive, and I believe for the most part that it does mean that. But what I needed to do is to respect the sexuality of female characters that are not the main heroine. Like, I need them to stop doing sexist stuff towards Ebony. I really do, because it's not villain stuff, it's sexist stuff. They treat Ebony in a very hyper-gendered way that is very gross, because it doesn't have to be that way. And the fact that people are, like, comfortable with sexual manipulation when it's, like, in this way, it's uncomfortable, because we wouldn't have said that from guys. Like, if Dyson had done that to Ebony, I'm sure people would have been much tweaked out about it. Like, it just seems very... It seems very problematic to have, you know, a show that's supposed to be all about people being sex positive, and yet so many characters who are not Bo are shamed in subtle ways. Because slut shaming is not just like, you're an evil, dirty slut. That's not slut shaming. That's not all what slut shaming is. Also when you have a character who is promiscuous and you give her character traits to automatically make us believe that we should not like them. When you make them flighty, when you make them dangerous, when you make them into certain sort of negative stereotypes that are also connected with people who are promiscuous. That's shaming. It's shaming without saying it, because you are automatically telling us by their sexuality and these other character traits that we're not supposed to like these people. And besides Bo, we have never seen another positive succubus, because the only other succubus we've seen is Aoife, and she was seen to be dangerous. We have not had more than just Bo and Lauren, to a degree, engage in positive sex that doesn't have negative outputs. Like, even with Lauren, half the relationships she's been in sexually have been under, like, some sort of manipulation at one point or another. In fact, yeah, because Nadia was possessed, the whole spy bang incident with Bo, the reverse spy bang with Crystal, and then the double agent spy bang with Ebony. All 4 of her relations that we've seen her sexually be in all have manipulation in it. That's not positive. It's just not okay. I love Lost Girl. I highly critique it because it's a very important show to me, because it has a bisexual protagonist, and I really feel strongly about that. And I feel like it does have good things in how it's been made, but at the same time, I just feel like, show, you need to get it together.